It's flowing. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to say good evening to my guests tonight. You are watching Mitou, Polly with Mitou. I have with me this evening Miss Melly and Mr. Reggie. Um, on the panel. So we were all gonna talk about sex and intimacy tonight. This is our podcast that started 2 Wednesdays ago, 3 Wednesdays ago. This is our third one, episode 3, and we plan on doing it every Wednesday until further notice, because there's so much to talk about around polyamory because it's such an unusual topic, I guess, and taboo in many cultures, especially in the Haitian culture. So I wanted to kind of bring it to the table as well and have a conversation, especially for my fellow Haitians, whether here or in Haiti. So with this podcast, what my goal is to eventually be able to do it in Creole and English as well. But when the conversation gets heated, we all like English because that's what we're comfortable in right now. But we will jump back and forth, and don't worry, Melly, and anybody who's listening, who's watching, we will definitely translate whatever is said in Creole. But tonight's topic is sex and intimacy, something a lot of people are afraid to talk about. Sex is not something that's really talked about much because there's such stigma and shame around it. So we are going to talk about it. Good evening, Melly. Good evening, Reggie. Melly, we're going to go with you first. Tell us a little bit about you. And
I am a Philadelphia native. I am currently learning Creole, Haitian Creole. I had a background many years ago learning French, so I've been trying to learn Haitian Creole so I can keep up with you. Um, but I am 45, and I started this poly journey a couple of years ago. I feel like I was born poly. I just really didn't have the language or the verbiage to really um, identify it, I suppose. And I was always an outside the box kind of a girl. So, like, don't put me in a neat little box with a neat little bow. I am just Melissa or Mel or Melly, as Ernie calls me. Um, but I have currently two partners. I feel like it's a spade game. I got two and two possible. But I definitely have connected well with this poly. It is a lifestyle. It's not just something you do or something I do. It's just who I am and who I feel like I've been for a long time. I'm also a habitual oversharer, so I prefer honesty, transparency with anyone I speak to, whether it be relationships, friendships, family, and I give the same, even if someone else is not giving that
all
in return.
right. Thank you, Melly. Reggie, we would like to hear from you.
My name is Reggie Beloved in the Facebook land, Reggie for short. I was born in Haiti, raised in Miami. Um, I was formally introduced to polyamory in Afghanistan, of all places. I was talking to someone on Facebook, and then it was a woman, and she told me that her boyfriend had a girlfriend, and she was okay with it. That blew my mind. And I started learning from there. I'm married. I got 3 kids. I consider myself polyamorous. I think that's just I personally think that's the status. That's the normal status of human beings, and people choose to be monogamous. I'm in a monogamous marriage, but I'm educated about polyamory. And when I learned about it, it just was like it's not that it just makes so much sense. It was just like putting a word to something that we all already know. That's the default of human behavior. What was really refreshing or different for me was that it was women that was kind of a woman introduced me to the term, and started teaching me some things. And I took part in a lot of a few meetups live here in the Atlanta area. Joined a couple of groups. I've interviewed Ron of Black and Poly, who I think is awesome. And I actually introduced Mitou to polyamory based on, like she said, some things that we were talking about, and then she just took off from there. And and we actually did a show on my show. We did two shows, very popular shows. I've had my cousin that's calling me from South Florida. Just a lot of people there are low key very interested in the topic. So I think I really salute me too for taking the ball and running with it. And I'm just here to add whatever I can to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. So our topic tonight, like we said, is going to be sex and intimacy. Um, as we know, sex is a little bit frowned upon sometimes by some people, some groups, because this is just not something you talk about, especially when you're a woman. You should not talk openly about sex. You should not be sexual, or you should not even let people know that you're having sex. Um, so tonight we just wanted to have just a friendly discussion about it, and people can let us know what they think. What is sex to you? What is intimacy? Are they the same things? How do they connect with each other if they're not the same thing? Do you think you need one for the other? So all those questions within the topic. So I'm gonna open the floor for anybody who would like to start. I don't know, Melly or Reggie, who would like to go first on this one.
Um, well, so I was raised in a very religious Christian household. My father is a minister, and when I would tell people, "Oh, I'm a PK," they'd be like, "Oh, you're wide open." And I was pretty uh, I won't say prudish because I was always an outside the box kind of a kid. I did my own thing. I marched to the beat of my own drum. If you told me that I could had to choose between two things, I'm always going to figure out how to have them both. I always wanted my cake and ate it too, often. Um, and so I went to college, far away from my parents, or far enough, and explored who I was. Um, I think the very first time I had sex, I was 18. And it wasn't like I'm in love with you kind of a thing with him. I liked him a lot. I cared about him, but I really just didn't want to be a virgin anymore, and I needed him to kind of break the seal, so to speak, because there was somebody else I was interested in my one of my classes, and I didn't want that guy to know that I was a virgin. So I'd already planned in my head, yes, this is my boyfriend, but I kind of already want to sleep with this guy. And for me, entering sex in general, especially with men, it was just more like a notch on my belt. I wanted to see what yours was like. I want to see what yours was like. And I had the mentality of the stereotypical male player, whatever. It wasn't even like that for me. It was just, I liked sex. And I didn't like sex so much because of the feeling, it was more of the power. I wanted you to want me, and I wanted you to keep wanting me. And I wanted to do what I did and have sex with you and enjoy it and really not call you tomorrow. Like, I had that mentality. So it was harder for men at that time, this is in the 90s, really to conceptualize who I was because I'm in this pretty, very feminine, wearing little skirts and high heels package. But I was a dude in my head or how I approached sex. There was no intimacy initially. And then, like maybe after 2 years of that, I became a dancer and an adult entertainer for probably 13, 14 years. And then my perception and conception of how I perceived men was different. You know, it wasn't really connected to intimacy or my emotions. I used to tell people I can have sex without, I can fuck you without feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard, especially in the 90s, early 2000s, for men to understand that women actually could behave in that same pattern. And I would pick men that were typically players because I felt like they could handle it better. They would want a woman like me, but when they had it, it was like, oh my God, I want to lock you in. I want to control you. And I'm like, that doesn't work for me. And so then I started dating women and realized that I connected more emotionally. I would definitely be more emotionally, I hate to use the crazy word, but I'd be emotionally all over the place with women because I was so connected and tuned in with my emotions. And that's when I learned in my early 20s the difference between sex and intimacy. And as I've gotten older now in my 40s, late 30s, I started to understand myself more, what I needed, what I liked, what I didn't like, and was able to verbalize it clearly so that I could tie sex and intimacy, whether it be a man, a woman. I am technically, I hate labels, but if we were to put one, I'm pansexual. I like all the people in all the parts. I don't specifically care about what gender you are, what parts you have between your legs or on the top of your body. Um, I mean, not on a superficial makes sense. I want you to be visually attracted to you. But it's really more on a sapiosexual kind of a thing. I'm attracted to conversation. I'm attracted to people who are smart and who treat me like a diva, but also understand that this other side of me, I have a lot of masculine tendencies as far as aggression and um, assertiveness that people identify more with males and less with females. And I'm a gender bender, not so much in my presentation, but how I approach sex, love, intimacy, relationships, and understanding myself. And I'm grateful that now I get it a little bit more. I mean, we learn every day, but I know how to say that to people and understand that I can love you in 5 minutes, but that doesn't mean I need to be with you. Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it? It gets you there, keeps you there in the hard times. But it's not all about the love. I can love you wholeheartedly with my whole soul, but understanding that we're not compatible means to me it's waste. It's wasted time or experiences that I could share with others.
Okay. That sounds good. I mean, look at Reggie's face. What's going on, Reggie? You
He
keep
made a
making
lot of sense.
faces.
Yeah, that's really hard to follow. But I think the original question was sex and intimacy. I always try to start with definitions,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree with what Mel said for the most part. Two different things. Sometimes they can be related, but not always. So, intimacy to me is the ability to feel this very unique connection with somebody um, without really sometimes understanding why. It's almost as if like they do certain things um basically like you know about the love languages. They speak your love language without you telling them like, hey, this is my love language. um so I like Mel said, sex can be very business-like transaction. It
Mm-hmm.
really can, just so that you can kind of release this urge inside you, which when that urge hits, man, like I remember I'd be feeling like punching walls,
Mhm.
like it's like you can hurt people if you don't exercise that demon, if you will. It's bad. It can get really bad. So definitely different things. So I feel like for me, intimacy is a really really important. Almost, I'm an atheist, but I'm gonna use the word sacred because I can't think of no other word. Because if you feel like the person gets you, like those are the reasons why you want to keep that person. Because I feel like it's such a rare thing. I think it's a lot easier to be sexually attracted to a person than for you to have those persons who can be intimate with you. Um, and so that's something that's very important to delineate. A lot of people merge the two together, but I challenge anybody who's out there that's listening, who have ever been in an intimate situation. imagine if this person who's able to speak your intimate language is able to do that without sex. I think a lot of us would be satisfied with that because they get us, we feel safe, with all the veneer, all that fronting comes off because there's no need for it. You feel like you're there in this moment in time, and it's amazing. It's very special. And I think a lot of times people try to like fabricate it, based on different things, but it's a very, very hard thing to capture. Now, sex, like Mel said, you know, I know for me in my journey, I think that again, I was listening to all kinds of things, listening to R&B, trying to pick up tips, and then one day I just was like, I remember, a breakthrough moment that I had was like, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna just be myself. And when I developed this, like, I don't give a fuck attitude, excuse my language, I think things started to
Full
get a
grown.
lot things started to get a lot easier for me. People mistook my, like, I would honestly be scared to death, but like I would use humor to like maneuver around situations, and I learned how to speak really slick in a way, to the point where I was accused of being flirtatious. And I remember during that time, this was like 10th grade, I remember thinking like, well, I'm just talking to the people. I'm just having conversations. But sometimes I was scared. I used to be honestly scared. And like I'm stepping up to better looking women consistently. And then there was a time when I would be like, okay, well, I actually like you. And then the girl would be like, nah, you be talking to all the girls. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
how do I know that, like you're not going to
You're genuine.
talk, yeah, like I'm genuine. But I'm like, no, 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 no. Like I like you and I really like you. Like I feel like, whatever. So that was really like a crazy point for me when I actually developed my confidence in my ability to speak and kind of get, in the mind space of the woman and disarm her in a way. Because you got to imagine, good looking people hear it all the time.
Hmm.
And it's very intimidating if you sincerely have honest intentions for her to kind of step up and be like, yo, I know you got a lot of competition and I know I'm not 6'9". I don't play basketball. I'm in high school. I got no money. However, however, if you get with me, you getting that dude that'll do anything for you. I mean, that's how I thought that women kind of wanted until I started learning little bit by little bit that now, I like my hair pulled, you know,
I like my
And
ass
you felt a
thing.
little
yo,
bit.
the spanking, coming from a Haitian background, we hate getting baton. All of a sudden, like, no, 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 spank me. Like, whoa, wait a minute, I don't hit women. What you
Right.
trying to talk about? Yo,
Mhm.
it really blew my mind. So I went through journeys, what I'm saying, of experiences, and here I am today. But I'm glad for it. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that we are talking about now that we take for granted and we learn, I wish I would have known as a
Right.
younger person. And that's why I'm so big with education. When I talk to Mitou, I say, that polyamory and everything is not about sex. It's not about it's all about education. I'm big on that. And I understand that it's not comfortable to have these conversations. But what I love about polyamory is this notion that, you know what, I'm going to keep it real with myself first, and then I'm going to keep it real with you. That is revolutionary because let me tell you,
Yes.
from the time I started to, learn the game, it was built on facade.
Mhm.
Everybody, male and female, were faking it.
You
You know what
get
I'm saying?
representatives.
Oh, I hate it.
Anyway, I could talk forever, but I mean that's my 2 cents. But I'll come back to me.
But I love what you said. Like it's so on point. Like education. I mean, I spent a lot of my career professionally in education, mental health, emotional support, mostly for teenagers, transitioning adults. People with autism, people that didn't know how to really find their voice and express it. And that education piece is so poignant and on point. Like the beauty to me of polyamory is the transparency. And there's still people that aren't transparent because that's just people. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just like the same thing that you were saying, like with your representative and learning the game and being honest and real rap. You know what I mean? What you just said, like about getting to know women and understanding what people you want your hair pulled or might want to be choked a little bit. All of that is involved in the sex or the intimacy or whatever act that it ensues or with that person. But that straight up, I always used to laugh because I said, men, no, men have confidence, even if internally it might be some insecurities. I've seen men that maybe aren't the most physically attractive that will shoot their shot at a beauty queen. You know what I mean? Because it's like, look, I mean, I might as well say it. And women, we're more, especially women that are pretty by society standards, or you hear all the compliments all the time. I would say pretty women have the most insecurities because we're in our head. Women in general, we're in our head all the time. That's also part of delving into the sex and the intimacy and like orgasms, the difference between orgasms and obtaining them between men and women, because it's mental for women. And a lot of men in general, not specifically, but in general, it's physical. Like you can see something, you can beat your shit. You know what I mean? I might not be a masturbator in general because I really like another person. I mean, I'll do it if that urge, like you said, gets so bad where I want to punch something or I notice something super bitchy to everyone I come. Okay, I need to rub one out real quick. But you know what I mean? Like it's that that trend. I used to appreciate men that would come and be like, "You are totally not my type," but I dig your confidence. I dig your approach. I dig your even if you've given me your representative. Sometimes the shit you saying just flows so nice, and I might be attracted to that, but I might not be attracted to it past, let's just fuck the night and you go home. Ain't gonna be no cuddling, get off of me type shit, go home. But I appreciate that approach because to me, I grew up in Philly and I feel like there's a lot of cities and a lot of places where people are super real. But I mean, I always used to say Philly breeds their women harder because you got to match the energy of these men that are coming so hard and so for some people that I would meet, like especially in the South, they were all bless your heart and all sweet and stuff. I'd be like, girl, you kind of bitchy. No, I'm just real. I'm straight up and I say the shit that's on your mind that you feel like you can't say because it's not politically correct. I don't give a damn about that. Never did. I'm going to say what I feel. I'm going to do what I want. And if you like it, get on board. If you don't and you're on board, don't make me feel bad about it because I won't. I won't. I'm going to still be me. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I might say, I apologize that my delivery might be harsh or too hard for you to handle, but my words, I mean, every day, all day. And if they change in 3 seconds, it's because my head is spinning all the time. But I appreciate a real approach. When you come hard and come real, look, this is what I feel, this is what I want. Either you can jump on board or roll out. I like that.
Exactly. I mean, for me, I've always considered myself a highly sexual person, even growing up in Haiti in a space that really didn't make room for sexuality and especially girls and sex. Because I remember growing up, what seeing the some of the teenagers at the time that were already having sex, and it was such a shame when people knew that they were having sex. And even, I mean, even in my household, it was kind of like, you better not associate with so and so because she's doing this,
Oh.
she's doing that, right? So those girls were looked up on, and at the same time, the boys are just like, yeah, and it was
Mhm.
always like the double standard kind of thing. And I even remember, God, I don't know how old we were, but we were very, very young. I want to say maybe 10, 12, maybe, yeah, about that age. There was this girl in my neighborhood that, if she liked a boy, had sex with the boy, I guess she got played a lot, I would say. I would say she was very sexual as well, but people would look down on her. But she would agree to have sex with one of them, and that one would maybe talk to another one and say, "This is where we're gonna be at this time. So, come." And then when they come, they're like, "Oh, I, I saw you, so now you're gonna have to do it with me too if you want me to keep my mouth shut." So it
Mhm.
was always like that. And I found that out. It was it was really awful. I feel like the way they treated her, and then they're the same ones that are saying like, oh, she's a slut because she's sleeping around, but you guys are manipulating her and technically violating her, in a sense. Um, but anyway, as a teenager, the second I started having sex, I was having sex. It was monogamously, but I was all over that. It was pretty amazing. And even into my young adult time, I was very sexual with my boyfriend, and got older, same thing. Intimacy for me is the ability to just kind of be soft, be vulnerable with somebody. I don't cuddle, just like you said, Melly. I don't cuddle with just anybody. I've had plenty of sex, and deuces. Thank you. Nice doing business with you. And see you later. Until next time, whatever. And that doesn't mean that I don't respect those people. It's just we don't have that vibe. And that kind of cuddling doesn't come with everybody. But I also have people that I cuddle with that I don't have sex with. And I enjoy that too. You don't have to be sexual with somebody in order for you to be intimate. And I think a lot of us always confuse the two words, or they think if you saying you're intimate with somebody, there must be sex. How can you just lay there with somebody or share certain things, certain parts of yourself with somebody and not have sex with them? It's really hard for some minds to comprehend, but I think sex with intimacy is just mind blowing. It's like, I don't know how to explain that kind of feeling. It's on a different level, because you can have sex, it's enjoyable, it's great. It could be mind blowing sex. And you have sex with somebody that you are super intimate with. It's like, oh my God, this is heaven. This is, I don't know.
Kicks it up a notch.
Yes, I've never done ecstasy, but from what I've heard people say about ecstasy, I would say maybe it's just like something like that on ecstasy. I don't know. It's like it's just it's out of this world. So I think they can be hand in hand, but also you can have one and not have the other. They don't have to be together. So,
Agreed. That's why I like Reggie's definition about like intimacy is that mind blowing shit that you can't explain, And I have in my past, in my 20s, I did ecstasy, and it is like that. It's the kind of shit that makes you feel like it's mind boggling, and I'm so in tune. There are people that I have my life that I've shared with people because I trust you. I trust you intimately with not just my body, with not just my sex parts, just my soul. And that shit takes you to another level. And conversely, like those situations, when they end, they're always so like, oh my God, I'm so drained. I'm so sad. Because it feels like I've lost a limb, or a part of me because that intimate connection you can have an intimate connection with people that are just your friends or family or somebody that you've chosen to be your person. And when you lose that, it feels like what I imagine somebody losing a limb because I feel like something is missing with me. The sex, if I could have great mind blowing sex, but if I lose that, whatever, I can pick up another one. Shit, I get approached all
right.
day. But I don't choose to be intimate and share my secrets and the deepest part of me that hell sometimes I can't even share with myself. I can't even always identify, or sometimes you share those intimate parts of you with someone, and it's like I'm sharing this with you, and as I'm saying it, shit, I'm acknowledging it myself. Like, oh my God, I verbalized this is how I feel. I can cry with you. I don't cry. I mean, I cry on sappy shit, but like I don't cry when it comes to my stuff. You know what I mean? I'm hardcore because that's my mama. I called her the ice queen. That's how we were raised. And you guys talk about like the Haitian component. I can even stretch that because I'm not Haitian, but I can stretch that. I feel like in the African American community in general, we're so sexually repressed, and there's so many specific rules, and you can't do this. You a guy, don't put a finger in the butt. That kind of shit that's so ingrained in us. And then I was in a whole religious family. I mean, my parents are still religious. I've been out of the proverbial closet, which I hate saying because I ain't come out of shit. I'll let you in. But you know what I mean? My parents, 25 years later now, I've married only twice, and they were both women. And my parents are still, we just pretend when I talk to them, that part does not exist. They know the joke when I was young in high school, my grandmother, my family would always say, "Oh, Melissa changes boyfriends with the holidays." But it was more so because if you stop being what I need, I'm okay with saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I still love you, I still care for you, but I can't continue this path. Now you're in the friend zone because if I lose that connection with you, whether it be because I've been in my head or because I've evolved and I've learned more about myself and it just doesn't match, I move on to the next. Thank you. Hello, next. And it's not, you know, what you said about that young lady when you were young. With women, it's always so different. I mean, I could have 50 freaking partners between 16, 15, and 18, but if you're a girl and you got my body count is ridiculous. And I don't share that with people because most men and women, but most people are like, damn, the fuck, were you an athlete? I mean, like, I just chose, I like sex and I like different partners. And if I want three in one damn day, I can because I can. And I didn't like those unspoken rules that set us in women can't have more than this many partners. If you do, you're a hoe. If you're a guy, you're a man. Oh my God, you got 15 girls, you 15,
You're
you
a
18,
player. You this,
you're
you
a player.
that.
And when you're a girl, you got more than two
You're the
partners, you're a
man.
hoe.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated that. But I would, I remember being in college and having one of my roommates was really more lower key with her sexual shit and not as open and with herself or with people, and she was cool with that. And I remember her coming back to our apartment in tears one day, and she was so angry, and I was like, what's going on? She was like, man, I was in a study group and we were all sitting around and they were talking about, I had really short hair kind of like yours, and it was blonde, and they used to be like, the girl they call Jada or Slim Chick on the yard. Yeah. Oh yeah, man, I fucked her. Oh, you did? I fucked her too. And she was hearing them and she was like, what's her name? And they were like, her name's Mel or Melissa, but we call her Jada. She got dimples. She's real slim. We call her Slim Chick. And she's like, you talking about my roommate? And they're like, well, she's not a hoe, but she's a freak. And when she came to the house and I was like, what did they say? I was like, huh? And she was like, no, they said you're a freak. Okay, well, I am. I'm okay with that. She was like, I mean, you're okay with that? Yes. I don't care if you're talking about me. If you're talking about me and you say my head and my sex game is shit, then we got a problem. But I don't care. Let them talk because now you're going to spread it and you think that you're going to come and get it. You got to come more with that. And and I was okay, and she was not because she was still in that perception that, oh my God, they talking about you. It's like four dudes in my study group that fucked you. I was like, who were they? And she told me, I said, oh no, he was shit and he was shit. And I told her. And that's why they talking, because they still want me and they only had one time. I didn't ever give a shit about that. And I didn't care if people were talking. But it does present sometimes an unsafe environment sometimes for women because you get caught up or you get um, approached, or like you were saying with the young lady, when she
Mm-hmm.
was young and now another guy's here now to keep my mouth shut, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck about your mouth. I
Exactly.
don't care. And if you think you're gonna take it, I'ma cut you. Period.
But at
Or
the
tell me where's my
time,
wife. Yeah, it's harder.
yeah, at the time it was a different,
Yeah.
different environment, different culture, all of that. So
Mhm.
she was definitely coerced into a lot of those acts. Some of them she chose, but a lot of them it was kind of like, all
Okay.
right, she felt like she
Mhm.
had no choice.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Reggie, your mind is like
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah, it is. Why a lot of things are being said, and I'm thinking about so many different things. So I'm going to try to approach it. So first of all, going back to education, I learned about this concept called Madonna whore complex. So that's basically what the women face. Society, and this is more than Haitians, more than African Americans. We want the female to be single digits with the body count.
Ladylike.
Mhm.
Yeah, lady in the streets and
Mm-hmm.
freak in the bed, right? The problem
Mhm.
is
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that sometimes the lady in the street is still a lady in bed. You know, a
Mhm.
freak in the streets is a freak, and in bed or whatever. I mean, so people are forcing these roles upon us, and I fell victim to it too. Growing up, I remember very clearly my cousin Carl. He was older than me. He was the closest thing to an older brother. Man, just getting females left and right
Yeah.
talking to me. It was hard not to feel like I'm low key competing against this guy. It was hard. But I think that, for me, I've always been more on the path of the romantic person. And I think maybe my my adventures would have came a little bit later. Uh, you know, but I felt like I had to compete. There's a lot of pressure on guys. You know how, you talk about the body count. Yeah, like not every one of us wanted that large body count. It's just that, listen, if I don't, like, I've literally been in this situation. Talk about Philly. Much love to Philly. Much love to the East Coast. I know you're 90s hip hop. I hear it in you. But yeah, I was in Pennsylvania. I was in a crazy situation where what town was it? I'm forgetting a lot. So me and my homeboy who moved up to PA, we went to the club. I was still a little bit prudish, whatever. You got to say I'm a firstborn. A lot of firstborns are tend to be a lot more responsible. I'm not trying to get caught. I'm having fun, but I'm gonna be safe. So my man
Mhm.
L Hurley, he used to talk about all these chicks and what he be doing. So we went to the club, picked up some chicks. We went to the hotel. Long story short, I'm speeding through it. But one of the guys was like, "Yo, if you don't hit this chick, I'm gonna say you gay, like straight up." Like you gotta understand, like it was a man
Pressure.
pressure,
Yeah.
and like it challenged your very identity as a man. You know what I'm saying?
Masculinity. Mhm.
Yeah. So I fell victim to it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really necessarily want to do it like that. You know what I'm saying? This is my story. And I bet you there's a lot of guys who are
Mhm.
putting this large front. I've spoken to a lot of people privately. I've seen my friends being so in love. Like
Mhm.
my man Rob, like he had a breakup with this young woman, right? He was in shambles. You ever seen a broken person? And he's a
Mhm.
big football player dude. And I remember I was like, trying to be the sporting friend. I took him to the strip club in South Florida. I think it was King of Diamonds. I saw him peeping this large brick house chocolate shorty. So I was like, "You want her?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, cool." You know what I'm saying? I think I had a dance with it, whatever. But like what I remember was as I'm trying to like help him get over, I just admired the brokenness because like this
Mhm.
man was in love,
Yeah.
right? He was in love, but the facade that he had with everybody else, like he's big, strong, you can't hurt him. He's a player. You know what I'm saying? I met so many guys like that, and I feel like such a really big misconception in the female community that we are heartless. We just want the sex without the intimacy. I mean, all that is just not true, and it causes people to just go to these different paths that's not really who they really are. So going back to intimacy, I had this one example I was thinking about as you guys were talking. I used to do poetry. And when I started to like want to be in front of the mic, I was nervous. And I went to a spot. This is South Florida. There was this young lady. I'll never forget her name. I can't remember what she looked like. And I signed up. You're supposed to like. There's usually they have like a paper, and then you sign your name to like get on the list. So let's say there's 20 slots. If you were nervous, you sign number 7, even though there's all these spots ahead of you. So I signed up, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know. They're gonna call me next type of thing." And I remember she just grabbed my hand, and I felt like this heat. Like It was sincere. It was, I just felt something that I'm gonna call intimacy that gave me this confidence. And I was like, man, I don't even know her, but like she gave me this confidence that I guess. And I tried to reach out to her and talk to her some more, but like it didn't work out, whatever. But to me, little small stuff like that is an example of intimacy for me. That ability to be vulnerable, the ability to be real, and then from there build the confidence when you feel safe to be able to say what it is that you really feel, versus playing a role. I think it's still, I don't care if people are married, I don't care if people are 40 years old. A lot of people are still playing roles. They're still, not truly authentic because it can be scary. And so,
Yep.
and so until those two things come, there's still a lot of misconception again, which I fully champion going back to education so that people can know and understand, like, hey, that the reason why I'm afraid of being a freak is because I've been a victim of the Madonna whore complex. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I feel like I have to obey my father because my father's a preacher, and we know, and I believe that's still a thing where like my behavior, or at least I feel that my behavior reflects on my parents. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's where we came from. When Mitou was talking about the young lady in Haiti, I'm thinking like, growing up in Haiti too before I came over, like I felt the story, but like there's a social economic aspect that I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like the reason why we men can do, basically be out there is because the female carries the baby. And
Mhm.
in those communities, it's like a lot of times the families stick together and be like, yo, we have to take care of the baby. You went around and you did what you had to do, but now we have to deal with the repercussions, i.e., a baby. So that's why I like to be really hard on the females to not be promiscuous, so that the baby can be, I guess, more well off. And finally, before I yield the mic back, there's a movie that I'm thinking about. I'm blanking on the name that I think captures the intimacy. When I get the name, I'll reply. But yeah, all good stuff, and I yield back the mic.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question.
Right,
Where
I
were
saw
we?
it. I was trying to comment, but it's hard.
How do you explain to your kids about this lifestyle, and how can we protect them from other kids who may want to make fun of them?
Mm.
You guys are parents. Well, I know, Reggie, you don't live as a polyamorous person, so I don't know if you have something to say about that.
Of course. So, so my thing is that my kids know that I'm an atheist, right? So there's different outliers that
Hmm.
we already live.
Mhm.
In the same way I deal with that is the same way I deal with polyamory. Polyamory is not something I've spoken about with the kids necessarily. My oldest knows. My oldest is almost out of high school, but we'll talk about it the same way we talk about like, hey, how do you feel about it? Okay, this is a thing that exists. As you go through life, you're gonna learn all these things, and I want the kids to know that they have the option, if they want to talk to us about it, or if it's
Mhm.
brand new, let's learn about it. Because people are gonna try to like put pressure on you, and you have to make the decisions on what you're gonna do with that pressure.
Mhm.
Mel decided to own it, you
Mhm.
know, and that's tough for women in some ways about that, because we as men face different issues. So with my daughter, again, like, let's talk about it. What do you think about it? My kids are, like most kids are very smart. They're not dumb. It's kind of like, hey, what do you think about that? What The only thing I ask for my kids is don't be that person to shame others for being different. You know what I'm
Right, right.
saying? Like a lot of times you don't know what's going on with that person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on with that young man, that young woman? They might need someone to let them know that, what, I see you, and I don't know why you're doing that, but I'm not gonna necessarily shame you. I might want you to be safe.
Mhm.
I might care about your safety,
Mhm.
because like the young lady that came to Mel, like, I think that, she came to you as a, like she was trying to protect you, right? So,
Mhm.
besides that, um, you know, I hope I'll just open the door for them and to be like, hey, People do things to try to control you. People are afraid, and people are ignorant. But you have the ability. I want to give you all, like I tell my kids all the time, I want to give you all the things that I learned later, like as soon as possible, but within context, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that
Right.
they can kind of
Exactly.
understand. So
Within
that's the way I
context.
would approach it.
Let me ask you
Yeah.
something, Reggie. How old are your kids?
18, 11, and 7.
And that's where, like, to answer, was it is Nardin? I think who asked the
Hmm.
question about the kids. I think it really, just like anything we share with our children as parents, it's about the context, like Reggie said, and your age and what you can conceptualize. This generation of kids, I am so empowered by them. I used to say, if I see one more 10-year-old on TikTok being a millionaire, I feel like I'm doing something fucked up. I feel like I'm messing up my life or something. I didn't figure it out. I'm so grateful that they have the technology and they have this at their fingertips. I used to, my son is 18 and he's not my biological child. I could not biologically have children, but I raised him from birth with my first wife. And my first wife is Trini, and she was very, very more masculine presenting, and she was very hard, as a lot of West Indian families are with their children, very hard on him. And I was his emotional backbone. I was his emotional go-to. So as Giovanni and I blended and built, like now we have a very people listen to our conversation. I'm like, that's your kid. I'm like, yeah, because I know what time it is. I know what you're doing. I know you out in the streets. I know you fucking. I know what you're doing. But I approach it differently. Dude, I just need you to be safe. I need you to understand that the biggest game, I mean, and I'm not saying because I know some very good uh, people of the law, but the biggest gang out there is when it comes to a young black male is the police. I mean, like you've got to pay attention to not just other kids that are trying to lead you astray or trying to dig in your space or trying to hurt you in a rough neighborhood, all the things that I knew he had to deal with. But when we talk about the nitty gritty. Like Giovanni and I, he knows that I'm poly. He also knows I'm pansexual. I remember him being 10 and having a conversation with my ex-wife father, who was Trini and very traditionally a Trinidadian male, and he was like, well, your mama's gay." He calls me Mima. Your mama's gay, and he was like, "Hold on." He was 10. My mama's not gay. She dates who she wants, and she does what she wants. He knew that early, not because we had that conversation, but because he could see it, and I knew that he was able to understand. I also, because I'd worked with children that had disabilities and different challenges, and my son would get so upset when I would come home and I might have been a little bit bruised because some of those young ones would beat me up. And I would explain to him, look, you've got to understand that different people process things differently. And I will always be in your corner, but if you're a bully, I'm going to fight you because I need you to understand that you've got to process and understand and respect other people's perspectives, even other kids. And I want you to be a champion for the ones that are being beat up because and I with him at
I think
18.
something happened to your mic,
Yeah, your
Reggie.
mic, it fell off. Can you hear us?
Do you hear me?
Her,
Barely.
yeah, she probably dropped her earpiece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There we go. Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But like with him, I made sure that he understood now at 18 because he comes to me with deeper conversations. I have deeper conversations with him. Of course, there's certain things that I'm not going to be all into it with him, but understanding that people have different choices and how we choose to live our life, just like Reggie was saying, protect them, but don't shame them. Because the thing about shame is a lot of times people who live in a certain kind of a way already have enough voices in their head telling them what's right, what's wrong, society doesn't like this. I'm my worst critic. I beat myself up daily. I don't need your voice adding to that. And so I teach him just understand, even if you don't agree. As people, as humans, people even in relationships, friendships, whatever your interaction is, people get it messed up. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean we can't interact. I don't have to think the same way or behave the same way for us to still communicate and understand each other and show love to each other. And I think in this space, in this world that we live in at this time, and how kids are very much attacked and like see things on social media that are okay, that are not okay, and just trying to figure out their own way and figure out their own perspective. It's important as parents to really help them understand that understanding is the key, communication is the key, and just because I don't live like you live doesn't mean I have to pick at your lifestyle or talk shit about you or make you feel bad. Just love one another and show love and respect even if our lifestyles are different. And I think that's really, really important when it comes to children. But also staying in context. If they're 5, you don't want to be like, hey, I got 5 partners. That's not
Right.
understandable. You know, you and mommy are good, but what do you mean? Y'all each got other partners? That don't make sense to a 5-year-old. You know what I mean? Keep it
Right.
where it makes sense. To an 18-year-old who's dating, yeah, it makes sense. You know, I
Yeah.
don't want you to see me out with my partner and be like, "Damn, you cheating on mom? You cheating on dad?" No, we gotta understand it and sitting down together sometimes and helping them understand that we're both okay with this. You know what I mean? It's not like one's cheating or, but understand that if that's not your way, that's okay. And if it is your way, that's okay too. I just want you to come to me. I encourage my son to come to me with anything, even if you feel like I'm not gonna like it. He calls me Dr. Seuss because I like to lecture him. But if I don't, if I'm gonna tell you what I feel like is gonna help you, only because if I knew then what I know now, I'd have been serious in my 20s, like really on a different page. Like I had to hurt a lot, and as a parent, our job and sometimes overboard. We want them to not hurt, but sometimes they gotta make mistakes. Sometimes they gotta hurt. But if we give them the knowledge, it helps them understand, even if they make shitty choices or hurt or do stuff that's hurtful, understanding how to own their shit because that's important. Not put yourself in a box like what Reggie was saying about how like men sometimes when they're a player, you cool, but when you are a loving dude as a big man, damn, you gay, or you soft, or you a bitch, or are you a pussy? Like those kinds of things hurt. Just because you're a loving male, that's a beautiful thing. I teach my child how to love because I want you to treat your woman like I would treat my woman. But understanding that if you can come to me and feeling comfortable enough to tell me even the things that you might not be the most proud of or you might not be the most sure of, knowing that it's free. I didn't have that with my parents. I can't just go to them and be like, hey, this bitch hurt my feelings. I can't
Mhm.
do that. But I want my son to be like, me and my girl, man, she's a like he told me the other day, oh, she fucked this dude and this dude. I'm like, dude, what are you doing now? Like, really? Like, come on, don't put that on her. If she fucked somebody else and you did too, y'all 18 and y'all figuring it out. Just figure it out. But that putting your hands on each other and fight, just understand that I am here for you to come to me with anything, even if it's scary or you're afraid how I'm gonna respond. I'm not gonna black out and kill you. I need to know because it helps me guide you. And I think that's important. You know
Exactly. And I also think that to add to what all of that you guys said, I mean, context, age depends on their age and their maturity. You can give them a little bit more every time. Um, like my oldest and I, we've had you know, brief talks about polyamory. But also, I think as parents, our jobs, yes, we want to protect our children, but our most important job, I think, is to help them figure out how to deal with hurt because you're gonna get hurt. I can't
what
protect you from every hurt that's gonna come your way. But if I give you the tools to learn how to deal with those hurt, with everything that's gonna happen in your life, then I feel like I have done my job, because I can protect you all I want. I'm not going to see everything that's coming. You're not with me 24/7. You're at school. Like my oldest is in middle school right now. Um, from what I hear, I didn't, where I grew up, we didn't have middle school, but kids were kind of cruel as well. But I feel like this is a different kind of cruel here. And
Mhm.
they're already saying things, and I've
Mhm.
I've seen text where he's discussing with other friends what somebody has said about him and things like that. So it's gonna come up. It's just I want to be able to equip my children with the ability to deal with the hurt and all the BS that's going to come at them, because without that, that's when they want to kill themselves or
Mhm.
do hurt themselves and or hurt other people, because they don't know how to channel those emotions.
Mhm.
So it's not so much about protecting them. You can't protect them from the world. You just have to equip them better.
Right, right. Give them
So
the tools. Kids have always since the beginning of time been mean as hell. I mean, you
yeah.
have that, but it is different now, And then like because my career was mental health, emotional support with children, with teenagers, and legitimately, literally talking children and teenagers off the ledge, and now it's younger children killing themselves or hurting themselves or hurting others, understanding, this society gets all weird. Hurt is part of life. When people say, "Oh, I promise I won't hurt you," that's not a legitimate promise. I tell people, I promise I won't intentionally hurt you. And if I do
Hmm.
cause intentional harm, then I will own my shit. Because
Right.
the reality is, hurt is part of life. And some of the most hurtful things in our lives have shaped us in ways that nothing else can. And understanding and giving them the tools to handle that hurt and channel that in healthy ways. I remember working with teenagers that were cutting themselves, and my coworkers that were adults were like, "How do you understand them?" I was in my 20s, and I'm like, "Well, in my 20s, I looked like a teenager, and I knew their language and I knew their music. And when I would be sad or extra angry, I would get a new tattoo or a new piercing. So I would tell these kids, look, your parents are open. Ask them can get a tattoo. It's going to look better than lines on your arm. And I understand the concept of a hurt that's physical that I can deal with a little bit better in order to help you channel that initial energy so that you can handle the emotional impact afterwards. That kind of a thing, I get it, but giving them the tools is so important because this world is crazy right now. These kids,
It's chaos.
it's so sad, and it hurts my soul as an empath because it's like I see these kids that are hurting and parents who didn't have that equipment for themselves can't effectively equip their children. And
Exactly.
so that counseling becomes widespread, and our communities look at therapy as only crazy people do. It's necessary sometimes to piece out your emotions, to journal, to write them out, to punch a punching bag when you're feeling angry instead of going and shooting up a school. Like those kinds of things are important to help people have healthy sexual and intimate relationships as adults.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. We're gonna take one last question. In order for you guys to date someone, does he, she has to be a poly?
um, my primary partner is monogamous. Um, uh, it is definitely different. Um, it has its challenges because he does not always understand. Um, if I say to him, dude, we're long distance, if you feel like, you know, you're itching, you know what I'm saying, or you want to meet somebody else, or you meet someone that you care about, you can date them, and it's not a hierarchy for me. You're just, I mean, we love each other, and that's okay. But it definitely is a different conversation. I think if I meet someone that is poly, my other partner is poly, and our conversations are different. I talk to him and he tells me about his other partners. I asked about them. Hey, how is so and so and so and so? Are they good? Hell, I might even message them every now and again. I am primarily solo poly. I like solo relationships with each of my partners, but my monogamous partner has a harder time understanding it because I am his first experience or interaction with the polyamorous lifestyle. He doesn't understand. He feels like it is a trap or like, mm, I'm gonna be cheating. No, it's not. As long as you're honest with me, don't lie, don't hide, because you don't have to. But it is. I don't have to date someone that's poly, but it is easier in some ways.
Yeah, for me, I prefer dating somebody that's poly, just because I don't want to teach
Hmm.
a newbie, or sometimes the person may not even be interested in the poly lifestyle. It's just like you said, there are a lot of challenges that I I prefer not dealing with at the moment, because I don't have the patience right now for
Hmm.
it, and I don't have the time nor the desire to deal with those issues that will come up, because they will come up.
Hmm.
So for that reason, I just prefer not dating anybody who's monogamous. Um, well, I guess Reggie, I don't even know if that's a question for you.
I can answer. I can answer.
Okay.
I think for me, I think yeah, I'm married, obviously, and everything. I think it'll be easier, but being that we live in a primarily monogamous ish
Monogamous. Hmm.
society, it comes with the territory, right? So most of the time, you're gonna run into people that are used to the classic uh, um, storyline. So if I like you, I like you, and then we'll deal with each other. But obviously, it's a lot easier if you find someone that has some key things that you find in common. To me, it's not so different than the whole atheist thing. Because when I became atheist, I was like, yo, like, I just committed social suicide. Ain't
Hmm.
no way I'm gonna find someone that is, you know, accepting of me. I didn't care about them. Like I could love you if you're a Catholic, Hindu, whatever. If I deal with you, I think you're fly, you're dope, you're smart. I'm a sapiosexual. Let's talk about some mind blowing ish. Let's talk about like that. Everything else is so small to me. It would be them having an issue with me. So
Hmm.
I obviously would prefer certain key things in place, but I also accept that I'm a minority in a larger pool. So there's going to be teaching involved. Me too. I'm sorry because and it blows people's mind. You see that look? Oh, you're what? Okay,
Right.
that's interesting.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, let's
Mhm.
grab the kids and walk out of here because
Mhm. Regardless, you know
it's
what I
always
mean?
an opportunity to be an ambassador, and I think that the way that I've gotten over the whole atheism thing and with Polly, should that be a situation, is when you win the person over with your personality, who you are, and
Mhm.
then you kind of can fill it out when it's the right time anyway. Then you say, well, when this question comes up, like, oh, you know what, have you ever heard of this? Because
Mhm.
that's I found out about this now. I really identify with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just letting you know because the time is right and we happen to be talking about it. So once you kind of win the person over, I think it's a lot easier because then it's kind of like, oh man, instead of them being disappointed because like, yo, I like you, so dope, you're so nice, or so
Mhm.
beautiful, whatever the case is, and like, wow, I didn't expect that. It's kind of
Mhm.
interesting. You get a better reception. So
But honestly, though, like if I notice that the person is talking to me in a sense that they're interested in me, I tell them from the get go, very first conversation. I'm not into wasting time. And it's okay too if you're disappointed in who I am and how I live my life. You can keep it moving. But if you're truly interested in me and want to have a conversation about it, even if you're not about it, I'm all open for it. But the very first conversation that I have with people that especially when I suspect that they might be interested in me, I let them know, hey, I am polyamorous. What do you know about that? And we can start the conversation like that. But if you're not even open to having a conversation about it while you don't even know what it is, that tells me something. It's a big red flag for me. Like we're not gonna be compatible.
again, it all depends on the situation, the context, and everything. You brought that out because you felt that it was important and the timing was right. and you laid it on the table because you don't want to waste your time. I get that.
Hmm.
But again, for me, it all depends on the situation, whatever. And yeah, I don't have no problem saying like, hey,
Well,
you know,
maybe for you, it's a different situation because it's more like as far as your orientation when it comes to your beliefs. It's not necessarily the person is interested in having something personal with you on that level, as far as romantic or anything like that. I think there might be a little bit of a difference.
there
And then
is,
when I'm sorry, but what you
Sorry.
said, Reggie, about like how if you're already in it and we've already been having conversations, I think the difference with what Reggie was saying, me too, or Emily is saying, you know what I'm saying? It's the sense of if you're already in it and you already know that I'm dope and I know that you're dope, and then it comes up the way that Reggie was saying it, like when you approach it, then it
Right.
becomes a different conversation. With
Right.
Emily, like where you were saying, I tell you from the jump, I do the same. And there are people sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, I can get down with that. And they're cool. But then sometimes later on, it becomes, well, I don't like that you do this, or I don't like that you do this. We are all individual people on our own individual path. If our paths intersect, that's great for us. But that doesn't mean I have to do what you do, be who you are. We can still live how we are and have an understanding. And I think that's the difference in what you two are
Hmm.
both saying. Like Reggie, more so, like if we're already in it, and that's a conversation and you're still interested or not, or you want to have a conversation or you don't, then we can kind of build from that perspective. But I think sometimes when you tell them straight off the door and they're like, I don't even want to get into that. And I will explain, look, this is what polyamorous is. It doesn't mean I'm out here collecting partners and sex people. It just means that I want to be free to love who I love if the situation arises. And I don't want to be restricted, like, oh no, I can't fall in love with you because I got a man or I got a girl, and I need you to understand that. And I take the time to explain that. And then if you're still like, that's not how I live, okay, I appreciate who you are, but I can't change who I am just to be with you. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
From the door. Once
Right.
we are in, it changes it a little bit because your
Right.
feelings might get involved, like what
Right.
Reggie was saying, or how I perceived what Reggie was
no,
Right.
no, that's right.
Or how the person might perceive you as well. So
saying. Right.
basically, it's kind of like people who wait for you to fall in love with them, right? For them to
Hmm.
tell you something very important that you should have known from the get
Yeah.
go that could
Yeah.
have influenced how, if you
Good
were with
decision.
them or not, you know?
Yeah. Agreed.
So, and I see polyamory as one of those things that is
Yeah.
very important to talk about from the first conversation,
Mhm.
because some people they may not want to deal with it, and I'm
Mhm.
fine with it. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a rejection that I'm afraid of. Nobody
Yeah.
likes rejection, but that rejection, I take it like open arms, like,
Straight
yes,
up.
bring it
Yeah.
on. you know
Straight up. Same thing
so
with religion or atheism, and
mhm.
if you're religious and oh no, I can't deal with
Right.
that from the door, or like even I've been approached on dating sites. Oh, I want you to be the unicorn. Can you be the third for me and my man? Sweetheart, I'm not interested in a closed triad. I want to still be exploring. Now, I mean, we can have sex because you and your man are cute, but I ain't trying to be your third. And now we all in this community.
Right.
That's beautiful, but
That's
why
not what I'm
I,
looking
I
for.
don't want to be restricted.
Right. That's not mine either. I think Rudy as well said, as a poly, what would you do if you would like to date someone who is a swinger? Would you date them? Would you also join this community? I mean, you could pretty much do whatever you want. Some polyamorous people are not interested in the swinging life, and some are. So it's gonna depend on what you want for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Diversity
could do.
too. Like with polyamory, sometimes it's like swingers is what a lot of times what I think monogamous people look at, and polyamory is a triad. So if
Right.
I don't want to be, I can be your third occasional, but we're not all gonna live together. I like to live by myself. Hell, my dog sleeps in my bed. That's the man in my bed. The,
Mm-hmm.
the dude in my bed. If you
Right.
stay overnight, you gonna sleep on the other side, but he's still in the damn bed. He big as hell.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like it's I think it's just about, you know, knowing what you want from the door and being able to verbalize it and understanding that even if I like you, I like your dopeness, I like your energy, we connect, we vibe. But if we're not compatible, it don't matter how much we vibe. If I met a woman that I really liked her, she was allergic to cats. I got a dog and two cats. So you can't really come to my house without me feeling like, oh my God, you're gonna fucking have an allergy attack. And I get it. But that just, I'm not gonna try to, at this point in my life, I'm
Adjust
not
your
gonna
life
try to figure
around
it
it.
out. Like, I
Yeah.
like my life.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, for me, I feel like the swinging community is mainly, I'm not saying it's only, but mainly built around the monogamous people, right? The couples who want to go out and have a little fun, but please do not get attached to anybody. I will be really mad if I know, and I gotta be in the room as well if you guys are
Right.
playing. Oh, and if you guys are playing like she can't have more play than I do, or he can't have more play than I
Mhm.
do. It's all that stuff. Now, if that's your cup of tea, that's fine. I don't like restrictions.
Mhm.
I want to do what
Mhm.
I want when I want. Obviously, the people that I'm involved with, we have an understanding, we have agreements, but other than that, it's like nobody puts restrictions on me. If I wake up today and say I want a casual sex
Mhm.
partner for the next few months, and that's what I'm gonna do, as long as I'm keeping myself safe and the other people that I'm involved with, that's pretty much all that matters. Nobody comes to tell me, well, you can't do that, or I have to be part of it, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So men are definitely accepting as long as it's two women. Seldom are they secure enough for two men. True.
Mhm.
Yeah, because a lot of times that's a fantasy. No, no, no. She means like for two men to be in the room. Like, how
Mhm.
men always want threesomes, but it's
Mhm.
usually with two women rather than,
Right.
oh, let me have another guy in the room with you, babe.
Mhm.
That,
And that's what I
that,
think. You
right.
know,
That
use
doesn't
her.
usually happen.
Mhm.
If you get lucky, you might find a
Right.
guy who won that.
I know.
But honestly, it's very rare.
Yeah.
So
And that
you,
Kevin said something about that song Next Lifetime. That used to be my thing because I would tell people, yeah, I mean, I care about you, but in this lifetime and what I'm looking for, I've finally learned how to know what I'm looking for and not try to make exceptions or amend my behavior because I want to be with you so much. I'm going to adjust how I am. I'm a smoker. I smoke cigarettes, and a lot of people aren't into that. And they're like, "Oh, you're beautiful." And I never dated a girl that's slim and she like smokes and she smokes cigarettes, and I never wanted to. But I like you. That's cool, but I'm gonna smoke. And if we're in my house, I'm smoking in my house because I'm not making amendments for shit in my house where I pay my own bills. But in that, I'm gonna tell you all of who I am in the beginning because you need to be tall enough to ride this ride. And if you want to, this is who I am. If you don't, ain't no hard feelings. I'll see you next lifetime.
yes, exactly. Well, we are at 10:13. Wow, we went over time, even though I was trying not to. We have yet to do a live that is just 1 hour. And by the way, I have to say thank you to Reggie because he kind of inspired me to do this live because he was the first one who asked me to come on his show, Haitian Freethinkers. To talk about polyamory. And I was so excited because, I'm going to open my mouth about polyamory wherever I am. I enter a church. Yes, let's talk about polyamory.
Yeah.
So, quick story. I have one of my clients, she's a pastor,
Mhm.
and I think it was the first time I was having the show or something. And I invited her to come watch my podcast. She's like, "Oh, what's it on?" I said, "Polyamory." She's like, "What is that?" So I explained to her, and she was like, "Well, I'm a pastor and this and that." I'm like, "Well, I mean, you can still be part of the conversation. That doesn't mean you have to be a polyamorous or live as a polyamorous. You can come and be part of the conversation and understand why I am the way I am, and I can understand you wanting to be monogamous and all that stuff. So just because you're not that person doesn't mean you can't have the conversation."
Mhm.
Can I chime in? I love how
Yes.
the intersection of religion and sex
Me
and
too.
polyamory. So the Bible, especially with women, is terrible for females. Why would she be a pastor? And polyamory is all over the Bible. I mean, my
All
man,
in it.
my man Solomon had a 3-year rotation of fresh coochie. 3 years rotation,
Fresh coochie. I love that.
And he was
fresh
God's
coochie.
favorite. And he was
Listen,
God's favorite.
he
Hmm.
had was it 300 wives or 700 concubines or 700
Hmm.
wives and 300
And he was
concubines?
sleeping with a married woman.
So
How do you even do that? How do you even have the energy to do all that anyway?
because
But
Exactly.
most of his marriages were political in
Arranged.
nature,
Mhm.
so it
okay.
wasn't like love whatever, which is why I, me being a romantic, I love the story of supposedly the pseudo, what's the word, the story of uh
Mhm. And David.
Makeda and Solomon. So supposedly Makeda is the one woman who won Solomon over. It was because of her intellect and her
Mhm.
beauty, and she had status. But I don't know if have you heard the story, Me Too?
No.
Bathsheba.
But not Bathsheba.
Oh no, that was a
No,
different one. It was Michaela.
yeah. So Makeda came over from Africa. Supposedly, it's not in the Bible. It's a side story. Came over to visit Solomon because he was supposed to be the wisest person in the world. So people were congregating from all over the world to hear Solomon's wisdom.
Mhm.
So Makeda was fine, dark, bad. You know what I'm saying? And so Solomon was used to slamming, left and right. So he tried to holler at Makeda, and she was like, "Yo, like you can't just get with this." You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so he set up a trap for her, and he gave her a riddle, which the answer was water, and she couldn't solve the riddle by the time in the morning, and so she, was impressed by him. She let him hit. She goes back to Africa, where she gives birth to a son. She sends the son to go to Israel to learn his father's ways, and that son supposedly is the descendant of King Haile Selassie. Supposedly that's where his lineage come from. So what I love about story is powerful people meeting together in the minds. They could have anything they wanted, you know what I'm saying? But like that high respect, that really appeals to me. It's just same the story of Shah Jahan and Mumbai Mahal. I don't know if you know about the Taj Mahal story. Again, a guy, lots of women, but there was one main one that he loved, and he built the Taj Mahal for her. Um, I love Muhammad and uh, Khadijah. Khadijah's story. I love that. So anyway, but that's me though. I
Yeah.
totally understand every.
Gabby.
I laughed because Emery laughed because Makeda is one of my Makeda est terrain belle et puissante. I mean, she was a oh my gosh, my
Yeah,
favorite
she
song,
was.
Lady Bien,
Let me
Makeda.
be. You
Oh,
know
it's
it.
my
You know it.
shit.
If you
Oh, I
know
love
that,
that song.
if you know that song, you know what I'm talking
I
about.
do. It is amazing.
That's why we both like.
And that's why I was like, that's the song I want to sing with you.
Yes.
Hmm.
Gabby said, "Be yourself." I'm trying to teach my wife that people's perception have a hold on some. Yeah,
Yeah,
that it goes back to the cultural thing.
it does.
We are afraid of stigmas. We are afraid
Mm-hmm.
of judgments and
Things
things like
outside the
that.
box.
So yeah, I mean, but again, that's work that you have to do within yourself before you become okay with who you truly are, and then get people. People don't have to accept you. They just have to be mind their
Understanding.
business and yeah, understanding
Mm-hmm.
basically. That's it. They don't have to accept it. Like I don't care if somebody likes me for who I am or dislike me for my life, my lifestyle. First of all, you don't even pay my bills, and even the people who would be paying my bills. I mean,
True.
if you don't want to pay my bills because of who I am, then you can take
Right.
a hike. It's
That's
like,
a new one.
yeah, I'm too grown at this age. I really, as long as I'm not hurting anybody,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's, it is what it is. Cause you know what? No matter what you do, there's always going to be some criticism.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Quick question. I'm thinking about this movie, and I know the show's about to end. I don't want it to end without bringing up this movie because I find there's a
Another
poignant
thing.
example with intimacy. You guys remember the movie where the guy visits the young lady in Washington D.C. and then the sister falls in love with him, but he actually loves her. I'm trying to remember the name, and he's light skinned. It's an indie classic. It's an old school, like she's got to have it, but it's not she's got to have it. The,
Right.
the the movie has her name and like at the end, like she realizes she loves him, and then they get together. He becomes a filmmaker. I have a feeling that one of you two ladies, no, if you could help me with that, I would appreciate
What
it.
else was it? So the man, the sister, he was with one, and the sister met him and fell in love with him. What else?
So the idea was that he came over on the weekend, and then the sister was already engaged to somebody else, like a singer, and the younger sister, was engaged too. But he's the single guy. He's basically like trying to help them resolve their issues. Then the older sister realizes that have mercy.
Hmm.
Have mercy. I don't
Listen,
think I've seen
ladies,
that.
Look
ladies,
at that.
please do
See
me a
how talking
favor.
it through comes out.
I need to write it down.
That's your homework tonight. What I'm the reason why I bring have mercy is because we're talking about intimacy. There's a
Hmm.
scene, it's still worth seeing. And have mercy, there's a scene when he helps the younger sister realize why she's having her issues. To me, that captures intimacy. So have mercy, write it down, please look at it, and then call me and tell me what you think about it. So
Yes.
the other thing that I wanted to bring up was, oh, as you guys were talking, I'm realizing something. Women are the ones that is going to have to lead this charge with polyamory, because you understand, us men, we're expected to be out there doing whatever in the streets, right? But yet we're unethical about it because we're scared. You know what?
Mhm.
Because we have fears too. But if the ladies are the ones saying like it's okay, I own myself, I'm okay with myself, I know who I am, I know what I like, it's gonna really help speed this thing to normalcy. So that's one. Number two, I'm thinking about all the Muslims. Imagine you guys talking to Muslim women. They're living in an arcade cage. No disrespect to my Muslims, you know what I'm talking about. They literally wear hijab. They are literally, their religion tells them that their men can have four wives, but they cannot have not even a boyfriend. Okay,
Mhm.
they are
Or they
lying.
can't even talk to other men that are not family.
Depending on how strict they want to be, they are living in such an arcade cage that's made by men for men. And we talked, you heard rumors about the men going and having 72 virgins. That whole system is so anti-women, is anti everything that we're talking about. I'm not dissing Islam, I'm just talking about real. If you guys can reach to a Muslim woman and trying to say, because you have to understand, some of these people, when they look at you ladies, they're like, there's no way I can come to my dad, my brother like that. I can't even think about even entertaining such thoughts.
Yeah.
So you think the Haitian community got bad, African American community got bad. There's there's a lot of women who are having lots of issues. And I feel like I don't think none of us are saying go out there and be unsafe and be rude and be nasty, whatever. It's kind of like the opposite. Polyamory to me starts with being honest.
Mhm.
Yes. That's
And
the basis of it.
a
Transparency.
radical type of honesty
With
that
yourself 1st.
with yourself first and with
Mhm.
others second, right? And then we project upon women in particular, like, okay, well, this is how you're expected to act. This is what a good girl does.
Mhm.
And we form them young, and we expect them to be these actors.
Right.
So the work
And
is the work is very difficult. But I feel like if women can push the narrative, because if we hear men talking about it, I think what happens is that they feel, oh yeah, you just want a license to do whatever you're
right.
doing anyway. But if women are talking about it, I think it's going to be more normal. So yeah,
Mhm.
so have mercy, and
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents.
And the
Thank
courage.
you.
Courage to step outside of that box and feel like you're not going to be persecuted, killed, beat
Yes.
down, all of those things to
It's very
really,
difficult for those folks.
even
Yeah,
if they're feeling it, the courage, that fear, oh my God, I got to leave my community, my home, my land, my whatever, because
Right.
they're going to persecute me. They're going to stone me. They're going to beat me. They're going
they
to kill
they
me.
they're gonna disown you. I know you said you're
Sometimes
from.
death.
Yeah, yeah, like it's serious for these women. I mean, I don't know if you ever met one of them. Like Me Too said, you're not
Mhm.
supposed to look at a man.
Yeah.
I met one that she didn't want to shake my hand. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard for them.
Yeah.
And
And I am grateful that I live in a society where I can truly be myself, even when there's like so much shame or judgment around it, but I can still be myself and not
And
be
live.
persecuted for it or
Mhm.
killed and stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
am definitely grateful for that.
But ladies, let me tell you, that's actually better than the United States. Actually, if you go to places in Europe, you guys will be worshipped.
Absolutely.
You be deified. I mean serious. No,
Where
no,
is
no.
that? Please let me go
I'll
there.
tell you, the Netherlands, and
Okay,
Germany.
let me write it
Germany. I was
down.
about to say Germany. Germany is, oh God, they love us.
I've been to both
Italy too.
places. Yeah. So you are exotic,
Mm-hmm.
okay? You
Mm-hmm.
are, and the thing is, it's not just the men and how they treat you. Those societies are, they make the United States look like a Puritan culture. You'll
Right.
feel like you're in Saudi Arabia because I've
Mm-hmm.
been to the Netherlands. I went to the red light district. A
Mm-hmm.
church is right next to a like the sexual what's the
Oh,
proper term,
street.
the red light district,
Right.
so and it's like this, it's not sneaky, you already know about the weed.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's trying to be like, oh my god, what, like I felt out of place, like wow, like yo, I don't
Because it
know.
was like like what?
Yeah, it,
Unfamiliar.
it was
Mm-hmm.
mind-blowing. So I'm telling you, there's a spectrum. The United States is there, but we are nowhere near where we could be. You go to
Yeah.
the Netherlands right now, you go to the Germany right now, and maybe Italy. um it's a whole different world, man. I'm telling you, it's
Agreed.
Maybe I'll move to one of those places.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you.
Love us
Melly,
there.
let's go.
They love us there, honey.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, we have to be grateful because so many people can't even talk or mention things like that.
No.
Or how about, arranged marriage still,
Yeah.
so
Right.
they
Oh,
don't even get to choose
Or
who they
religion. You
marry.
don't get to
Right.
choose whether you want to have one or be spiritual or have your own philosophy. It's just, you
mm-mm.
know, you might
It,
get shamed or talked about here, but you're not going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Right.
mean, like I
So,
said, it's serious. I mean, we didn't even touch too much about sex in this thing, but like, as I was, I got invited to the podcast. I was thinking so much about what am I going to say, whatever, and I just said to myself, you know what? That's such a really big topic that can go on for days. But one of the things that I say to myself, I realize is that sex is a primal urge, right? It's like eating, sleeping. You get hungry 3-4 hours after you ate, right? So you want to get horny
Yeah. It's a basic
however
need.
three,
long
four
it
times a
takes you,
day,
everybody's different.
right? You're gonna
Right.
have that urge. So it's very normal, whatever. So why do we don't have the same rules around sleep and food that we do around sex.
Right.
That same control, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think food may be different. You have fasting and all that kind of stuff. But man, let me tell you, it's
But
very
sleeping and
normal.
breathing is normal, just like
Yeah.
that.
So a lot of the things that we do revolves around sex.
Mm-hmm.
The deep down motivations, the things that we've gone through, and the lengths that we've, how we dress. I mean, it's
All of
so
that.
all encompassing. It's not even funny. And a lot of people just think about the act, the actual final stage of you doing all that work. But to me, that's so much interesting information about how we get to that. But that's me though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gabby said we're still living in a hierarchical society and women are on the lower end. Still,
Mm-hmm.
there is still a struggle. I mean, women are still fighting for everything, equal pay, this and
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, there's unfortunately, I mean, I think we are progressing, but very slowly.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So we're not where we used to be 20 years
And
ago,
steps are
but we're
coming
still not where we need to be.
and taking
That
us backwards in different
that that
ways.
that equal pay thing still blows my mind. I don't even understand how that's even a thing, but apparently it is. And actually March is actually Women's History Month, so big up to you ladies for doing
Yes.
what you're doing. So I salute the matriarchs, what I'm saying, the people that are doing it. Um, but I must say, like I said, coming back from a male perspective, I can understand the fear that we can get sometimes, the hesitance by having a strong woman who's up
Mm-hmm.
front, whatever, because you gotta understand, we were taught Madonna, whore, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're being upfront, some people will be like, yo, like, I'm just not used to it and I can't deal with you. You too sassy for me. I'm gonna tell
Too
you
Mm-hmm.
guys to
much.
sit. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you to sit down. No, get off that Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I got you now. So you go ahead and tone that down, and
Yes.
go make
Oh
me a
my
sandwich.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
go make me a
married now. You
sandwich.
should not be dressing like this
Yeah,
anymore.
what is this?
Yeah.
Oh, Kiki's on my
It's
what
about
friends? We
power
have no
and choices.
friends. Yeah, we have
Power
no
and
friends.
choices.
Yeah,
Right. No male friends or no
no male
opposite
friends.
sex friends,
Right.
because you're
Before,
married now. What do you
yeah,
need that person for?
And it's really all about power. It's about like no matter
Control.
man, woman, polka dotted spotted horse. I need to be able to be in control of my destiny, period. And just because we are now a unit does not mean I lose my identity. And a
Exactly.
lot of people feel that way. And that's why it's so important to be honest, transparent, and understand compatibility doesn't always go with feelings and emotion and love.
th- that's
Sometimes it
Exactly.
that's
does. It's right. But
that's new
sometimes
world thinking. You see, because the way the institution was set up is that I'm talking about marriage and relationship in
mhm,
general, is that
mhm.
once the man gets you, he erases your
Yes.
lineage by you getting his last name. That's one of the things when I learned in high school, I was like, how is this not a scandal? Now, the Spanish people have an interesting workaround because you actually get to carry both last names. I like that uh, process. But yeah, there's a lot of patriarchy, there's a lot of
Mhm.
control involved. Basically, the woman is expected to go from her father's house
To
to
the
her
husband.
husband's care with
Mhm.
no break in between, no royal oaths, no figuring out who you are, what you.
Exactly.
In fact, the system is so messed up for women. I think. Listen to this. You guys spend 12 plus years in school, then you go on and get your 4 year degree, maybe your master's,
Mhm.
and sometimes you're expected to forego all that experience, all that education for you to sit your ass
Right.
down and have
And have
babies
babies
and
At
stuff like
home.
that.
Yes.
and do
So
nothing.
and,
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
and I remember being in college and like the professor was talking about how women are like really thinking seriously about like, whoa, like, am I gonna start having my babies now while I'm young and fertile and stuff like that, or am I gonna
Mhm.
pursue my degree? And I hear about the horror stories about women being highly educated, highly
Mhm.
affluent, but they can't find somebody because they're too powerful. They're being punished.
Making too much
All of these,
money.
yeah, all of
Mhm.
these things are part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You
yo,
should
it's
need people. You
Right.
should be dependent,
you
in
should be
order for you
dependent.
to find somebody to love you.
So
Mhm.
we men fear the Makedas. Okay, we fear Khadijah. Khadijah did not need Muhammad. Khadijah was powerful, wealthy, widow, older. Okay, she chose Muhammad,
Mhm.
and it's difficult for those people. So,
Yeah.
you
Agreed.
know, and until we get over those little barriers, man, I'm telling you, it's very different. That's why, again, going back, the women are going to have to lead the charge. The women are going to say to the young man, "It's okay, and it's not a trap. I actually mean it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can talk to me."
Yeah, talking about that trap there, I remember I told you we would come back to that conversation. Give me
Mhm.
1 second. Yes, yes, D.
Yeah.
She said insecurities about themselves. Religion is one of the main problems. Yes,
Mhm.
but I remember. I think I've told this story before. When I was in my 20s, I had a very serious relationship and everything, and it was long distance. He was in Haiti, I was here, and we came from I was 19 when I met him. I mean, we were a highly sexual couple, right? So then you go from that to moving miles and miles apart. He can't come here because he doesn't have the papers yet to come here. I'm trying to go there once a year, a couple of times a year. I'm spending all my money on flying back over there to go spend time with my love. And at the time, we didn't have all the technology we have now. We didn't have video chat. I used to have to buy phone cards. I
Mhm.
spent so much money on phone cards to call him
Mhm.
every day because that's the only thing that kind of kept us in touch. And one time I went to Haiti to visit, and there was this little neighbor of his. She was the cutest thing,
Mhm.
and I could tell she was like, whoo, like she
Adorable.
loved him. So I told him, I'm like, dude, like, do your thing. Don't worry about it. Like, we had an understanding, but I told him, I'm like, I don't know why you're not, I mean, excuse my language at the time. That's what my mind frame was, but I didn't mind if he slept with her. So, but he did not take me seriously. Now, fast forward years later, we're friends and we're talking about, we're just going back in years talking about the different things. And, I brought up that conversation. He's like, oh, yeah, now knowing who you are, knowing your lifestyle, how you love, I realize now that it wasn't a trap. But back then, when you told me that I could, I thought you were trying to set a trap for me. I did not believe that you were sincere about that, because who would tell their boyfriend that it's okay to be or sleep with another woman? Nobody does that.
Nobody
Uh,
does that.
exactly. So, yeah, people, like you say, the man or a woman would think that it's a trap if their partners told them, oh, yeah, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, because we're always waiting for permission from this person to be who we are or do whatever that we do. So,
Yeah. So I can only speak from the male perspective. I would be. It's so unusual. I mean, not so much now. I don't know how I would have reacted much like him
hmm,
if I was in his position. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
Because it's kind of like, it's a test, to see if you really love me or whatever. I wouldn't believe it. So I
And
just,
some people do that. They're not honest. They'll tell people, you can tell me anything, and then, or tell me a fantasy of yours. Then when they are told, then it's like, oops, sorry, you were not supposed to tell me that. Hmm.
yeah, it doesn't have to be even that scandalous, to be honest with you, because I feel like going back to intimacy, that's a very interesting um, point in a relationship. Tell me something very personal or whatever. Like you really got to think about that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think we've had instances where it didn't really work out, but now that person has that information. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that they're gonna hurt you, but
Right,
like that it kind of did something to them. Um,
right.
and that's why a lot of people hopefully learned what to ask and what not to ask and whether they want the truth. Growing up, one of the main questions was body count,
Right.
but now
Yeah.
it's kind of like your aspirations as far as family, maybe, whether you want children, religion, whatever it might be. But
Hmm.
yeah, some people say they don't necessarily mean it. It's a maturity thing. People are in their journeys, and sometimes we are, I guess, a little bit advanced in our journey than them, and you just
Hmm.
kind of understand that. Which is why, again, going back to education, it's kind of like if I knew what I knew now, I would have been such a different person. I would have been a lot more confident. I would not have beat myself up for what happened to me a long time ago. When I believe a young lady cheated on me. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to believe this is where my mind worked. Like if I did everything right, it has to work out. Like I could not conceive of a situation where I did what I thought was the right thing by a woman and for her to leave me. Like, I mean, like, what do you mean? Like, I will
Hmm.
do everything for you. I'm like, I've learned what you guys want. I hear what you want. The thought of it not working out or her going to somebody else was extremely difficult.
Inconceivable.
Right.
So, but,
And that's why I want to educate my children about the stuff that I am now learning in my 40s, so they can do better and cope with situations better. Um, just a different way of life, because there's so much we were not taught. And it's not, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I mean, some of those people, they didn't even have the tools themselves to give us, but we know better. And when you know better, you should do better. And that's why I want to pass on all the, like, there are so many books that I've read over the last few years. I'm just like, where were these books? Why weren't we reading this kind of books when we were younger? Because as young people, it would have been so beneficial to us. So when my children are ready for those books, I want them to read them. Like the Four Agreements is one of the books that I always recommend to people, just because it teaches you, or it just not teaches you, but I'll just use the word teach. Yeah, it teaches you how to just relate to people in general. It has nothing to do with polyamory, but it just shows you how to relate to people and how to be a person yourself. And it's just amazing to me. I'm like, this is a book that I will always tell everybody, you should read that. Now, you don't have to follow everything in it and you don't have to believe everything in it, but it has some amazing points. And I want my children to read that, you
I,
know?
I agree. What book? I don't know what books you guys remember reading through middle school and high school, but a lot of those books are still probably being still taught. Like I don't need Shakespeare. No disrespect to Shakespeare, but
Right.
of the Four Agreements, the miseducation of the miseducation of the Negro, and some other books, where they're. I mean, this is not polyamory about money stuff like that.
Attachments and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the things that they need to be learning.
Yes.
But alas, it's bigger than all of us. All we can do is be ambassadors and get on podcasts late at night and just kind of have fun with it. And hopefully, and it is having impact, as you know. Like I said, I got people. Me too. When I tell you, my cousin is calling me, talking about what are you talking about? I got another young lady I used to go to high school. I put her on the same path. She's devouring information right now.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
I mean, I do have quite a few calls. People call me after the podcast. Some of them they can't comment publicly, which I understand because again, we're even us we're trying. They call and they talk, and that's pretty much all I want. Like for people to feel like they have a community, a support system, or something, somebody that could help guide them. I mean, I'm not a counselor or anything like that, but if I can help you find one, I will. And if you have some questions that I can answer, I will. If I don't know the answer, I may try to find it for you
Hmm.
or point you in a different direction to where I think you could find it. And to me, it's just amazing that, people can they can feel like, okay, yeah, I can actually talk to somebody about that because until you, Reggie, I kind of felt lost. Of course but by then I knew about open relationships, sort of, but not really. Um, but thank God, I because I never stopped talking about it. That's one thing. Even if I know I'm gonna be turned down or rejected for my point of view or for what I'm wanting, I always will speak up about my needs and my wants, and hopefully somebody will be able to help me or willing to help me and not shame me for it. I've gotten shamed for my mindset and things that I've wanted and things that I've put on the table. But you know what? It's like if I wasn't talking about it, I would not have known. Or I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to where I am now.
Right.
And I'm glad for that, and I appreciate the love and all that. I wanted to ask you, ladies, something. What in your journey do you remember hints being dropped about this notion, especially in the media? Do you remember hearing about a thing or this couple or this notion, maybe a song that kind of dealt with the topic without speaking and naming the polyamory? Because I can remember certain times that I've heard about concepts that about what it is now.
Mhm.
Do you remember anything like that?
I do. I mean, like, I was always like, I used to call myself an equal opportunity dater. So, like, I tell people I don't discriminate on the basis of age, gender, nationality, country of origin, whatever. And I think, um, in my experience, younger, dating outside of my race, I think I met people that were European or um, not brown, and they had a more progressive or open concept of um, love and intimacy and sex. And I mean, how I was also an entertainer. So, like, I met a lot of people that were swingers or, having a third or another person. And so I had always, or I won't say always, but early on, I'd been introduced to not so much the language of polyamory or E&M or ethnic non-monogamous, more so swingers or being more open and free and having other partners and it being okay. And then coming back to our culture, being brown, and you're like, why are you so repressed with it? Or why is it not okay? and really trying to explore and understand the differences between the two, and understanding my appreciation of and interest in the extra partners, or without it being cheating or extramarital affairs or those kinds of things, just having it open, but not really having the forum or the verbiage or the pathway to really make it make sense in my life
Hmm.
or bring it all together. But I've been introduced probably in my early 20s.
What about you, me too?
Um, I don't remember anything because every movie that I've watched was always, um, the cheating, which actually one of my favorite movies is Unfaithful by Richard Gere and Diane Lane. I don't even know why it is my favorite, but every time I watch that movie, it's just kind of like it did not need to happen that way. Um, but I mean, outside of seeing it in my community, that the men were having their different things outside of their main family. I don't remember anything in the media. Oh, I grew up in Haiti. I didn't come here until I was like 21. So,
I can tell you. I can tell you some examples from me, if I may, if you're done.
yes.
So I remember in high school learning about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, and there was rumors back then that they were, swinging. They were like, oh my God, they're like doing these wild things. And I thought swinging literally meant like you like had some kind of rope in your bedroom.
Swinging.
They used to go, whoa, and like
Literally swinging.
I really thought that.
Hilarious.
So
Oh
I
God.
would imagine that, like, wow, he's into some wildness. And years later, you see what's going on with them. Um, what else? You ever read Sula? You guys ever read Sula by Toni Morrison? So
Hmm.
Sula, the character, was a prototype woman to me who was
Mind blowing.
different.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoa, that's a scary woman right there. Sula and her relationship with I forgot the woman's name. That was crazy for me. So that's another mention. She's Gotta Have It by
Yes.
Spike
I
Lee.
only came across it like a few
Yeah.
years ago, though.
Hmm.
Yeah, so She's Gotta Have It. Cult classic. I
Sure.
love Lola. Oh my God, I
I
love her.
love
She was
her.
beautiful, and I felt I was every man in that movie. I understood the representation and like it made me feel in such a way where like I could not control Lola.
Hmm.
And Lola tried to be what they needed, but she reverted being back to herself, and that's so She's Gotta Have It is a great movie.
It
What
is.
else? What else can I say? Oh, Dr. Okiki in middle school, he was a Nigerian teacher. He told us like blurt matter of factly he has two wives, one in the States, but he couldn't bring the other one over because of the United States doesn't accept polygamy.
Polygamy.
Polygamy. So I was like, "What? You got two wives and they know about each other?" I was like,
Hmm.
"Tell me more." It was, and he was like very matter of fact about it, and it was like no big deal. It's like for you guys, it's a big deal, but for me, it's a big headache because I can't bring her over. So that was a thing. What other? Oh, and recently with Issa Rae's show, um, what's the name of Issa Rae's show?
Insecure. Insecure.
Insecure. So that was a season 2, I
No, I
believe.
haven't seen that.
That was a love interest between the tall, light skinned guy and her basically Nigerian friend, the lawyer. And then he was like, but she was like, oh, you got a girl and all that. And then he was like, me and my wife, we got an understanding and we could do this. And she had intercourse with him, but she still felt like, I don't know if I
Yeah.
could
It's
do that.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though I've never really seen someone kind of put another character in that position, was honest with them. I don't know if I don't know if the word poly was used, but that's basically what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, so so times are changing a little bit, but overall we still have the Bill Clinton situation. That's what people think about. Just download, just keep on,
Yeah.
so
Don't
but
let it be known.
those are the moments in time that I think about it. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's probably what was going on. So
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes,
Yep. All right. Well, we've had a very long conversation. This
Yes,
was
you have.
fun. This was really fun. So I hope to see you guys next Wednesday, and we'll let you know what we will be discussing. Might still have to extend on this topic from today. Who knows? And if you guys have questions, please shoot me a message. Something you would like to for us to discuss, something you're curious about. We are here to help you out. I want to thank Melly and Reggie. They were very last minute. I'm talking like today, last minute, and they showed up and showed out. So thank you guys for being part of my podcast, Polly with Me Too. So hopefully this won't be the last time that you will be guests on here.
Love it.
Well, you know how
Thank,
to reach me.
yes, thank you everybody who yes. Thank you everyone who participated. Remember to follow my page, my new page for Polly. It's Polly Haitian Hottie on YouTube and Facebook. Subscribe, like the videos, share them, share with your friends because we all have to learn. Follow me, follow my personal page, follow all my pages because I have so many now. But thank you again and see you guys next Wednesday.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. And I wanted to also remind people about Reggie's show, Haitian Free Thinkers. I don't know when you're going to have the next show, Reggie. We're waiting for it.
I will definitely announce it. You already know the topic. Don't tell anybody yet.
Uh huh.
But it should be coming out in the next 2 weeks or so.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. So you guys have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.